In seas and oceans, temperature and salinity play an important role. As a result of these two quantities, we can determine the density of water, and it is the density of water that determines which drop of water will be at what depth in the ocean. From the lighter layers near the surface to the denser layers, the ocean is composed of infinite layers. Density determines whether a water molecule sinks or floats. Density determines how ocean currents circulate from the tropics to the poles. Heat is carried within the oceans by these currents, which ultimately regulate the planet's climate. For this reason, temperature and salinity are important to oceanographers. Let's review a physics problem together. Knowing the displacement and the time of displacement for an object, we can obtain the rest of the quantities. Once we have obtained the speed, we can calculate the acceleration. Afterward, the object's path of movement is determined. In this way, we can understand the object's past, and we are also able to predict its future. All of this began with knowing the time and place. Similarly to this, temperature and salinity play this role for oceanographers. What are the temperature and salinity of the Adriatic Sea? We divide our discussion into surface and depth to better understand the changes in temperature and salinity in the Adriatic Sea. In the southern Adriatic, the temperature is slightly higher than in the middle and northern Adriatic. In the southern Adriatic, the water surface temperature varies between 12 and 30 degrees Celsius, with the lowest temperatures occurring in January and February and the highest in July and August. The average seasonal temperature in the Middle Adriatic ranges between 12.5 and 27 degrees Celsius. There is an average seasonal temperature of 12 degrees in the Northern Adriatic in winter and about 26 to 27 degrees in summer. Due to its location at higher latitudes, the Northern Adriatic is colder than the Middle and Southern Adriatic. We should consider that the length of the Adriatic Sea is 800 kilometers, and this sea is stretched along the latitude. It is slightly saltier in the southern Adriatic than in the northern and middle Adriatic. The salinity of the southern Adriatic is usually between 38.3 and 38.7 psu. Salinity in the middle Adriatic ranges between 38.2 and 38.4 psu on a seasonal basis. Due to the presence of important rivers, such as the Po, the salinity is usually lowest in the northern Adriatic, with the highest salinity reaching 38.3 psu. There is usually a gradual decrease in temperature from the surface to the depth of the Adriatic Sea. It is usually the case that the temperature changes are very small in the first 20 to 40 meters, and then the temperature begins to change significantly. A typical example would be that in July, when the temperature in the Middle Adriatic is approximately 25 degrees, it remains almost unchanged in the first 30 meters and then reaches 14 degrees at a depth of 70 meters and 12 degrees at a depth of about 200 meters. In the southern Adriatic in May, the surface temperature is about 21 degrees Celsius, but at a depth of 100 meters, it is almost constant at 14 degrees. There is usually an increase in salinity from the surface to salinity level of 38.3 psu in the Middle Adriatic reaches about 38.7 psu in the first 100 meters and 38.8 in the depths of 200 meters. If the salinity of the southern Adriatic is 38.4 at the surface, it reaches 38.8 psu at depth in the spring. Now, based on these temperatures and salinities, what is the density of the Adriatic Sea? This formula can be used to determine the density of water. During different seasons, the density of the Adriatic Sea varies between 1026 and 1029 kg per cubic meter. Surface densities in the Adriatic Sea are usually highest during the winter months. The surface density in winter is about 1029.12 kg per cubic meter, but that value reaches about 1029.4 kg per cubic meter at depths 600 to 700 in the southern Adriatic. Nevertheless, in the northern and middle Adriatic, The density is usually less than 1,029 kilograms per cubic meter. What is the difference between the water of the Adriatic Sea and the Mediterranean Sea? What do you think? Mediterranean seawater is generally warmer and saltier than Adriatic seawater. The Mediterranean Sea has a salinity of 0.3 to 0.5 psu higher than the Adriatic Sea. However, the Mediterranean Sea has a few degrees warmer water than the Adriatic Sea. We will learn more about the Adriatic Sea in the following episodes. This story will continue.